Up everybody, James Jackson here, back again with another video. If you're new to my channel, I do tips and tricks for the film and video making industry. So if you do like the content here, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you can stay up to date on all the content going forward. And please make sure to definitely hit that like. It definitely helps me and helps the channel grow, and it helps my channel a lot. ISO, any support I can, I greatly appreciate it. I'm gonna just say this: this is going to be a little bit of an uncut video for reasons beyond my powers. For those of you that may not know or may not be on the East Coast side, we've been having quite a bit of massive thunderstorms, especially in the tri-state areas, specifically Philadelphia, Montgomery County, which is where the county I stay in terms of Pennsylvania. So I was going to get ready to go do videos yesterday, and then we had this massive power outage due to these storms that knocked out all the power in my house pretty much for the rest of the day. So we were basically, and this was from like noon all the way till like 2 o'clock in the morning, we were basically without power. Then the power came back, so I was like, okay, great. And now I was going to come try to do the videos again today, and well, apparently the power did damage to my cable internet provider's box, to the point where we need technical support from our provider. So, and they've informed us that they're not going to be able to get here till Monday. So basically, long story short, it's like I basically don't have internet at the point right now, so I'm going to be just basically trying to do this real quick. Hopefully I'm going to go to a friend to try this so I can upload this stuff for you guys. But the other thing is that obviously I'm not being able to resolve my internet issue till Monday. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a live stream Monday. It's Sunday. So Sunday there isn't going to be a live stream video, unfortunately. But I am going to put out my review of these lights. I don't know if it will come out Saturday or it will come out Sunday, but one of those days I am gonna do my review of these lights, because I have a lot to say about these lights. So, but you know, for anybody, thank you guys for the support. But let's get into the video. You're looking at the title, and I want to get into this because this is some really interesting stuff. So we finally got the full specs of the RED Komodo coming out, because we got a couple production cameras in the wild, but most notably by cinema DP Philip Grossman. Yeah, Philip Grossman. If you've seen his work, if you've watched the Netflix series Chernobyl, that is his work. So definitely a dude who has a great understanding of cinematic storytelling. If you have not seen Chernobyl, please go check it out. It is worth it. It is worth seeing it. Definitely go check out Chernobyl. But we're here to talk about the RED Komodo, which is one of the highly anticipated RED cameras to come out, for the simple fact that it's a compact, it's a very small version of it, but there was a lot of features that other RED cameras that didn't have that are now being here. And we'll go through everything, but I will say this, it's just an overall concept. From what I'm seeing based on these specs, it's basically RED has made this camera to be this camera to be the camera of accessibility. However, it is at the cost of modularity and flexibility. And when we go through the specs, you'll kind of see the point of what I mean by that. So this camera is a Super 35 sensor, which I think at this point most of us knew this. It's a 6K sensor. It is going to have Apple ProRes for 4K, 2K, and HD. But when you're switching between ProRes and RED RAW, you will have to reboot the system. It's something very new. It's got a 3.5 millimeter jack on the camera. It's got the RF mount from Canon. It's really the first of the cinema cameras that actually has the RF mount. One of the good things about this is that if you got the adapter, which in his unboxing video, one of the unboxing videos he did, the camera actually comes with the adapter attached to it. So I don't know. So it seems like if you can purchase this camera with the RF to EF adapter on it, should you choose it. So, and which is great because then you can get the drop-in ND filter adapter, which now you can have NDs technically built into the RED camera, which is something that really wasn't optional before. And so that is a great thing. So basically, this is the first RED camera that's going to have non-proprietary accessories, most notably the media. So the media is not RED mini mags, it's actually CFast 2.0 cards. It's one slot, but it's actually pretty great because in terms of cost, CFast is it's a lot more accessible, but two, it's way less expensive than RED mini mags. I think like a 512 gigabyte CFast card is like a third of the price of a mini mag. I can't remember exactly, but they're quite expensive. But let's actually get to the image quality, which I know is what you guys are very interested to know about. So this camera is going to record at full sensor value 6K up to 40 frames a second using the full sensor. If you go into the wide crop mode, it will shoot up to 48 frames per second in that 6K mode. If you drop to 5K, it also shoots at 48 frames per second. In 4K, it will shoot up to 60 frames per second, and then in 2K, it will shoot up to 120 frames per second. However, you do have to understand, like this, if you've worked with RED before, this is pretty much a given. If you haven't worked with RED before, when you drop resolution, you do a 1-to-1 ratio crop of the sensor. So, in other words, in order to shoot 4K, if you want to just shoot 4K and get that 4K 60, you're going to have to crop into a 4K size resolution. Since this is a Super 35 6K sensor, dropping to a 4K size, 4K resolution means you're basically going to the equivalent of a Micro Four Thirds crop. And then if you go to 2K, you're going to the equivalent of a Super 16 crop. So quite a bit of a difference. So that's quite a bit of a crop on the sensor. But that is basically just in case you want to know about that. So, but one of the key things, and which is why so many people are excited about this camera, is that this is a camera that has a global shutter. Now, if you're not familiar with a global shutter or exactly what it is, majority, like 95% of cameras in the world have what is called a CMOS rolling shutter. You've heard the term rolling shutter, where basically because it's reading this whole thing as you are recording, it's reading line by line. So because of that, when you pan quickly, you get sort of that bend thing, which is the rolling shutter. With a global shutter, it takes the whole frame at once, which means there is no jiggle whatsoever. So if you're somebody that wants those really quick pans and whips, this is the camera that's probably you're going to go with. Now, however, there typically is a cost in terms of dynamic range. When you do that, you will lose. Typically, it's a stop of dynamic range when you use a global shutter, based on history of other cameras. But RED Komodo RAW says to have about 16.5 stops of dynamic range potential, especially if you're shooting RED Komodo RAW. So 16.5 stops of dynamic range. Losing it, you get 15 stops. So really, probably it's going to be around the 14, 15 stop range. That's still really good. That's still really good for a cinema camera. So to me, no qualms there. So no qualms there. So the boot up time is about 20 seconds. So yeah, there's quite a bit of a start time. The other major thing This is the first RED camera that will have autofocus. Not only autofocus, it's going to have phase detection autofocus. So this is the autofocus that Sony has made famous for. Now, at the time of this recording, we don't know what stage of phase detect autofocus is in. I don't know if they will have the eye autofocus when it comes to that. I don't even know if it will have the face tracking. It could just have like tap and it'll go to tap and he'll have some sort of continuous. We don't know if it has face tracking. We don't know what type of face detection autofocus. So this is RED's first attempt at it. Also keep in mind, we don't know how it's going to work with adapters, simply because one, this isn't dual pixel autofocus, which is typically great with Canon lenses and Canon mount. So, and Canon's not developing this camera, obviously. So we don't know how the autofocus is going to work, but it's going to be interesting to see once it gets into more hands and we see more results, how that's going to work. And then the ISO maxes out at 12,800. So if you're looking for a low light monster, this doesn't seem to be that camera, which is fine. I mean, outside of the Gemini, really, RED cameras are not low light cameras. You're not going to use these cameras for low light. You're going to want to light your scenes. And you should be lighting your scenes, especially if you're looking for a high quality cinema. Lighting your scenes is going to give you so much more creativity. I mean, look at this, just lighting the scenes in here. And I can do this, and I can, with stuff like this, you can make your scene look much better than just cranking up the ISO, even if it's super clean. Remember when I said it's going to be accessibility at the cost of flexibility and modularity? Well, basically from what we're seeing, that seems to be the case, and here's why. So if you look at the body, so one, it has a touch panel on top, which is also where you're going to be touching to tap the focus. Interesting choice per se. But more importantly is that normally where you have the mount where you would, attach the monitor of your DSM-C2s, from basically what I'm reading here, DSM-C2 monitors are not compatible with this camera. So you can't, so any of your monitors, any of your power from DSM-C2s, any of your modular backs for DSM-C2s, they all don't, none of them are compatible with this camera. So really this camera is sort of more of what you see is what you get. The power that it is using here are BP955, so they're Canon style batteries. And you need two of them. So it's a dual battery to power this camera. So which is interesting, and because these batteries are not cheap. They're $150 per battery. And with a camera like this, I strongly discourage from going with any sort of third-party knockoffs. Do not do that with RED cameras, because if anybody that knows RED knows knockoffs tend to either potentially basically not work, or worse, they can damage your camera. There's been people who have talk experience with that. So I would say go with the Canon style batteries, which they're $150 a piece, which means you're going to spend $300 to get one full run of batteries on the camera, which means you're probably going to need 4, which means you're going to probably spend about $600 on the batteries alone. However, what is cool about these batteries apparently is that these will power this camera for 3 hours continuously, which is pretty amazing, since big, huge gold mount, V-mount batteries may give you an hour if you're lucky. So to get 3 times of what you would normally get in a larger RED camera, that's a pretty, so 4 batteries, you're pretty much good for pretty much the entire day. So I think that's pretty good. The other limitation and sort of flexibility, obviously, is the RED RAW. So one of the things that everybody loves about the RED RAW is the fact that you have so much flexibility, and you have, of all the RAW codecs that I know of, this is the one that gives you the most control, as well as giving you the most variable compression options. Well, in this camera, there's the compression, in terms of compressions, there seems to be limited to only 2. and the two happen to be RED HQ and RED MQ. So RED HQ and RED MQ are your only options available of recording red code raw in this camera. So RED HQ is going to give you about 30 minutes on a 512 gigabyte CFast card. RED MQ is going to probably give you about 50 minutes. So it sounds like to me that it's the equivalent of, these are the equivalent of a 3-to-1 compression and a 5-to-1 compression option. So in terms of, if you're thinking you're going to get all those crazy flexibility compression options where you're going to get like 21-to-1, 16-to-1, 12-to-1, it doesn't seem that those options are available in this camera. So so you are going to be limited to what you can do with that red code raw. So and then of course again you have ProRes, so you can use ProRes, but again remember the resolution, regardless of if it's ProRes or red code raw, you will be cropping in on the sensor if you drop resolution. So you pretty much are getting this camera to shoot 6K. Personally, that's what I would say. So finally, the price, which is also interesting. So if you get one of the multicolored versions, there's like an orange one and a white one, and I believe there's a special one that's going to be like a gold version. Those are $7,000. But if you just go with the black one, the black version is going to be $6,000. Interesting that it's $1,000 difference for a paint job, but interesting. But that's just me. But basically, that's about it. But yeah, all your controls are on the little touch bar. Again, I don't know how I feel about the touch bar, the touch screen at the top. Because if I'm trying to film at eye level, hold the camera at eye level, trying to touch at the top, it's going to be a bit of an inconvenience. Now, obviously, if it's down here, touching the top, it's not that big of a deal. And actually, it's kind of cool because now you can hold it to your chest and then sort of look down. It's interesting that way. But if I'm doing anything at eye level, that touch bar is going to be completely useless. Now, you can also access controls with your smartphone. So if you have, whether it's Apple, Android, or if you're one of the people that actually got the hydrogen smartphone that RED has, that is one that I do know that you can also use the touch to focus, and that will behave like a monitor for this camera. But overall, these are the specs. He also did a low light test of this camera, comparing it to the 8K Helium. And one of the things that is definitely noticeable is that the Komodo definitely gives a far more neutral look in the blacks, whereas anybody that actually knows the RED Helium, it tends to, in the blacks, in the shadow areas, it gets very, very green and grungy. And it's not necessarily, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that gives it a very grungy, gritty look, which a lot of people actually like, and actually a lot of people go for. So it's all depending on your taste and on your flavor. But yeah, the base of what I'm trying to say is the Komodo is going to have definitely a very neutral look. But yeah, this is the specs of the Komodo. I don't see where it's actually going to start shipping, but from what I'm hearing, you can actually start putting in your orders right now if you're interested in the camera. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this camera? Do you guys think this is going to be, this is a camera that you're maybe interested in once you're reading the specs? I don't know. There's a lot of for me, I see there's a lot of limitations with this this camera. But either way, I mean, this would be like, I'll be looking at this far in the future if I'm even looking at this camera. Simply because my eye is still set on the R5 for the first camera to get, and then it's the C500 Mark II. So those are the cameras I'm looking to be at. But let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.